Community organizations are usually built on so much passion, right? A shared vision for the future. But what happens when that vision just splinters? When a vibrant, growing group suddenly finds itself on the verge of collapse? Not because of some outside threat, but from a fight deep within its own ranks. Well, today, we're diving into exactly one of those moments.
Okay, so let's get right into it. What you're looking at is a newsletter from May 1987. It's from the youth wing of the Tamils Representative Council, or TRC, in Singapore. And honestly, the cover says it all. Right there in these huge, urgent letters, it asks this really desperate question. Can youth wings survive? I mean, this isn't just manufactured drama. It's a real cry for help from a community in total chaos. And behind that fear was a truly shocking number, 638. That's how many members were left. Just a little while before this, they had 1,500 members. Think about that for a second. The organization lost almost 60% of its people in a super short amount of time. That's not a dip, that's a freefall. So that's the big question we're tackling in this explainer. What on earth could cause a thriving, successful youth movement to just implode like that, to lose more than half its members almost overnight? To figure that out, we've got to go back a few months before this newsletter ever hit the presses. It turns out this whole crisis, this mass exodus of people, it all started with a single piece of paper. Yep, one formal letter, sent from the senior leadership of the TRC down to the members of its own youth wing. That's all it took to light the fuse on an absolute firestorm. And here it is. This is the letter that kicked everything off, dated March 13th, 1987. It was written by the TRC's General Secretary K. Ilangovan. And at first glance, it just looks like a normal piece of internal mail, maybe a warning to members. But the accusations packed inside these paragraphs, they were nothing short of explosive. The leadership's accusation was serious. They were claiming that certain members of the youth wing were trying to form a separate body, basically a splinter group, and that they were even raising money for it. The letter paints this as a total betrayal, a threat to their unity, and an abuse of the organization for personal interest. And this wasn't just some internal slap on the wrist. No. The letter raised the stakes by specifically bringing up Singapore's Societies Act. This took the whole thing from a simple disagreement to a serious legal threat, warning members that what they were doing could land them with fines or even jail time. This was a direct shot across the bow.
Well, as you can probably imagine, the youth wing's leadership was not about to take that lying down. They saw this letter as a direct, unfair attack, and they got ready to launch a passionate and really detailed defense of their actions and, frankly, their character.
In their official response, the Youth Wing's Executive Committee, the EXCO, they did not mince words. They straight up said the letter was sent out just to harm their reputation, that the General Secretary had misled everybody, and that it had caused irreparable damage to volunteers who had poured their hearts into the organization. You can just feel the sense of betrayal. And right here, you see the fundamental problem. The TRC leadership saw these efforts to form other groups as a threat, an act of disloyalty. But the youth wing, their defense was that they actively encouraged members to join or even create other societies. They saw it as a good thing, a way to promote Tamil culture. The very same action was viewed as either treason or loyalty, depending entirely on your perspective. And all of this happened so fast. This wasn't some slow-burning conflict that festered for years. It was a flash fire. In mid-February, management meets. Less than a month later, that first letter drops like a bomb. Just 5 days after that, the youth wing has its rebuttal ready. The entire organization went from business as usual to a full-blown crisis in less than 2 months. It's wild. So after that first round of accusations and angry responses, it seems like the leadership tried to calm things down a bit. But you have to wonder, right? Was this a genuine olive branch, or was it just way too little, way too late? A second letter was sent out by Mr. Ilangovan on April 4th, and the tone here is like night and day compared to the first one. This letter completely avoids accusations and instead talks about needing better communication and cooperation to build a truly national organization. It's a much softer, more unifying message. But for the youth wing, those nice words just rang hollow. As they wrote in their newsletter, a deep pessimism had already sunk in. The trust was completely gone. They were left wondering if they could ever really recover from the damage and operate like they used to. The relationship just felt broken, probably for good. So what was the actual fallout from this war of words? Well, the consequences of this breakdown in trust were immediate, and they were really, really severe. The newsletter has this section called From the Chairperson's Desk, and it gives this grim, brutally honest assessment of what the conflict did to them. It's basically a sad list of all the damage that had been done. The fallout was just devastating. Membership totally gutted, key projects all put on hold. A real fear started to spread that the main TRC body was going to swoop in and take control. The newsletter even mentions that other groups were cashing in on the scene, probably trying to poach their disillusioned members. And maybe the most telling part, when they asked for people to step up and lead, the response was lukewarm. I mean, who would want to take charge in an environment that toxic? The organization was basically paralyzed. And beyond all the politics and the numbers, you can really feel the human cost here. The regular members were just caught in the middle of it all, holding these two conflicting letters, probably feeling completely lost. It was them, the very people the organization was supposed to be for, who were left confused and pushed away. So when you boil it all down, what you're really looking at is a classic story of generational tension, made so much worse by a catastrophic failure of communication. The establishment got scared of losing control, so they responded with legal threats. The youth wing felt like their passion was being punished, and that trust that held the whole thing together, it just evaporated. And that brings us right back to the newsletter's cover, which feels even more powerful now. After laying out this entire saga, it asks that really chilling question about what's next. Can history repeat itself? It's like they knew this fight wasn't just a one-time thing, but maybe part of a deeper, recurring problem inside their community. And that ultimately leaves us with a question that goes way beyond this one organization back in 1987. It's a challenge that pretty much every community, every company, every family even has to face. How do you balance the energy and new ideas of a younger generation with the stability and experience of the old guard? How do you give people autonomy without making others feel like they're losing control? And how do you handle disagreements with conversation instead of threats? As the story shows us, it's a really fragile balance. And if you get it wrong, you can tear a whole community apart.